My name is Paul, Great Cloud Studio. I'm an organizer for this event. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. 1 Million Cups is in 56 cities across the United States. The format is the same in each. Presenters will give us 6 minutes to talk and give an overview of their company, and then we'll have 20 minutes to ask questions, give support, and we'd like to have the speakers be a little bit vulnerable, not just give us the shiny side of their business, and hope to give them some constructive feedback. Today we have David and David from Cut Medical Bills.
Cool, thank you.
All right. Well, I'm David. That's David. I'm David Dube, by the way. That's David Holt. Right now we're just going to show you our commercial that we created for Cut Medical Bills, and then we'll go into talk about how we came to be and where we're going.
Meet Will. He's sad. You see, not too long ago, Will was diagnosed with cancer. But because of great treatment and the support of friends and family, he was able to conquer cancer. But one thing he was not expecting were all the medical bills. Will has a great insurance policy, but it only covers 80% of his total treatment, making his out-of-pocket expenses $20,000. Angry and frustrated, Will calls his insurance company, but to no avail. With a yearly income of only $30,000, Will is facing a serious crisis, the possibility of losing his house to foreclosure and filing bankruptcy. Will is about to become one of the 62%ers who file bankruptcy due to medical debt each year in America. But he doesn't have to, because he found cutmedicalbills.com. Join the thousands of people who are cutting their medical bills with cutmedicalbills.com today.
So that's our commercial. Thank you. Appreciate it. I did that. All right, anyway. So how Dave and I actually got together to start Cut Medical Bills was my mother was diagnosed with endometrial cancer June 28th. We went to the hospital at like 4 a.m. I went to bed at 2 a.m., so it was a wonderful phone call. Brought her to the hospital, and to find that out was, especially the fact that she thought it was kidney stones, was a pretty big deal. Then after that, go home, find out that we need to do a major medical surgery on my mom, and the doctors are unsure whether or not she might survive or may not survive. So I called David, who I met at a networking event in St. Paul here, actually at the Excel Center next door, and he told me that he was a lawyer and all this stuff. So I call him up and say, hey, my mom, we need to do a living will. Is there a possibility that you can help me out with that? So he actually showed up, and the day of her surgery, he showed up at like 7 a.m. at my house. My mom, my brother showed up, and we filled out all the paperwork, got it all done, and then took her to surgery. So he came through with flying colors, and the other part about it is this guy, he wouldn't take payment for it. He's like, no, I'm not going to take any money from you. So that was pretty awesome. Didn't talk to him for a little while after that until things settled down with my mom, and then called him up, and we got together. He told me more about then what he was doing, which was helping people cut their medical bills, doing it on a one-on-one individual basis. And my background, I do a lot of web stuff, and I do a lot of coaching consulting. Talked to him about, well, you thought about putting this in an online product, and he just said, let's do it. And that's how Cut Medical Bills LLC was started. I'll let you go on from there.
Yeah. So medical bills, outstanding medical bills are a huge problem in the U.S. As you see in the video, 62% of bankruptcies are due to medical debt. And there are already a lot of attorneys and what are called medical billing advocates out there that help individuals with this process. What they'll do is they'll step in and negotiate with what's generally the providers, the doctors, the clinics, the hospitals, to try and bring bills down or set up a payment plan to get the medical debt paid. But that alone does not always work for an individual. As an attorney myself, I have a lot of these individuals come to me, and it's really hard to explain to them how I would add value to their situation. They don't understand why I would pay an attorney and then also pay back my medical debt. It doesn't make sense. And it's really hard for me to set up a payment plan for the client. Is that going to be a percentage of the debt that's settled? Are we going to do an hourly rate? Or are we just going to do a flat fee rate and then see where everything ends up? So it's very difficult for me as an attorney working with these individuals to figure out how to get paid, but then still help the individual. So there's all sorts of individuals that, you know, I talk to, I explain the process, and then they leave. And I have been working on my conversion rates, but there's still a lot of individuals that, you know, reject me, that's just fine, and then end up going down the road to eventual either bankruptcy or not getting the help that they need and not getting where they need to get. So what we've done is we've cut out the middleman, we've cut out the attorney with Cut Medical Bills, and we've created an online training process that trains the individual on how to do what I do and what medical billing advocates already do, which is negotiate their debt, set up a payment plan, and say to the biller or the provider what exactly they want to hear to be able to set up that plan. The one situation that never works for the provider or the individual is an individual just going bankrupt and wiping the slate clean. No one really wins in that situation. The most common situation, though, that you have with individuals is they receive a big medical bill, they panic, and they decide, hey, you know, I have to pay this. You know, I received treatment, I have nothing, I had insurance, but I still have $20,000 outstanding. What am I going to do? So they convert their medical debt, pay it off with a credit card. So they've just converted one debt for another, and then use that credit card debt and eventually file bankruptcy is the general scenario. What we want to do is prevent that process. And what we do is we have a product that trains the individual to do exactly what an attorney or a medical billing advocate would do. This is not a debt settlement service. It's not a substitute for an attorney. It's simply a product that helps individuals see where they're at financially, be able to clearly communicate that to a biller, and still pay the biller, but in a fashion that doesn't make them go bankrupt and be able to pay their other bills. The providers, in theory, win because they're still getting paid, perhaps not as much as they'd like to, given a very large bill, but the majority of Americans can't pay $20,000 if they're only bringing in $30,000 a year. A lot of our competitors, what they already do, and the process that we use has been out on the market for years. I mean, this is nothing new. This has been around for decades. Ever since there were insurance companies and providers, there's been negotiation of medical debt. But what our competitors do, and what we do differently, is they try and get you to talk to an attorney or talk to a medical billing advocate and then bill you that way. Whereas we package everything in one deal, an online product, they pay one fee, they get all of the training services, and they can do it themselves and really empower themselves to be able to negotiate the debt. And what's really cool about the process is that medical debt and debt in general is very personal. Individuals prefer to try to figure it out on themselves. They can be, stubborn's the wrong word, but they can really internalize the debt, especially medical debt where you have very personal procedures. So what we do is we give them a product that they can use in their living room, in their household, and really empower them to be able to take control of the situation rather than having to talk to an outside party and pay them and figure it out in that realm. That's an overview of our product. Where we're at right now is we're moving into a soft launch here next Monday. We have a minimum viable product coming out, and we think that's the best route to take. We'll do a hard launch in early 2015 after we have some users going through the process. The biggest barrier for us right now is to confirm that individuals being trained in on our process use it properly. We know the process works. I use it as an attorney, and all sorts of attorneys and medical billing advocates generally use the same process. What we're doing is we're taking all those secrets, if you want to call it that, putting it into this online training platform, and the problem, or the thing that we need to confirm, is that individuals do it properly and as effective as an attorney or a medical billing advocate could do. Anything else you would like to add?
Thank you. You well covered.
So, yeah, that's good for the presentation. I can open up and be vulnerable and say we just launched. We're a very young company here in November. We're bootstrapping. It's very cheap to make an online product. We are confident that the process works. Our biggest thing is the actual training and confirming that individuals do it the correct way.
Tell us about the program a little bit, because we're sitting here blind on
Yeah, yeah.
program. So tell us a little about how long it takes, what kind of, is there an educational background that allows you to be better at it? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So it's all online. You have guides to go through your financials, a financial worksheet. You also have an ebook that you can use to follow along with the videos. Videos are me telling you what to do. You have a sample script that I've used and have perfected doing these negotiations. I've negotiated hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt for clients already. And so I know what billers are looking for you to say. So we've made a very concise script. Say this, add your own style to it. Here's, exactly what you can say. And then our videos flow through. The entire video time is a little bit over an hour, broken up into different sections. The first part is, understanding a medical bill, understanding the process itself, being able to spot errors in a medical bill too. And then we finally get to prepping you before the call that you make to a biller, what you're going to say during the call, avoiding common mistakes like getting frustrated or arguing the wrong things. And then we work on where you're going to set your negotiation points and what's reasonable given the industry and what billers will take as an acceptable amount given your financial situation.
Dave, give us an example. You said the $20,000 that we used as the example in your video. On average, if you were the attorney doing this, how much would you tend to save that person, or how much do you think that person, if they did it on their own, could still save it?
Yeah, so a lot of it is dependent on the income, but let's say, they had the $30,000 income, which was in the video, and they had $20,000 in debt, and I retain them, or they retain me as a client. I'd feel confident getting that down to about $5,000 on a payment plan, and then I'd have to decide what a reasonable fee for me and how it would be paid out, perhaps $1,000 or $500 of that. But the tough part with that then is a lot of those payments, it's frustrating as an attorney, you set it up as a payment after you see results. So they set up a payment plan with me, and then, it's very difficult when you're working with very limited income, and really you want to settle the debt, and that's why we're taking the attorney out of the process. So it's not on.
How much spread in there from $20,000 down to roughly 5 or 6 or whatever?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, yeah, there's huge spreads, and it's really all dependent on your income. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the process, and it's what people don't see is that if you have a very low income, you really have nothing. I mean, you're approaching bankruptcy, and you need to be able to have the confidence to be able to negotiate with that. And the provider needs to be able to know that and know that you don't have the means to be able to pay them.
I hope your background, that's why I asked so many questions right up front, but now please, everybody else jump in.
No, thanks. Appreciate it.
So what does the trainer make?
The trainer?
Yeah.
Me?
But you're doing every one of these?
Yeah, I've done all the videos.
No. When you said your biggest hurdle was training people to ask the right questions and to perform the service. So the person performing the service, what do they make? How do they get paid?
No, it's all online.
Here,
It's all video.
Right, so what we did is we created an online training where David actually, so I recorded all the videos, edited all the videos, posted them, created the website, did all that stuff. So there's 8 modules that you watch of him training you.
Your challenge is to get the end user to learn how to use your system.
Absolutely. And to fulfill the process of negotiating their own medical bills. Does that make sense?
So the solution for your training could be to go to a certification company that creates a program for you that says before you negotiate your deal, you got to go through these 5 or 10 steps.
Well, that's essentially what we did. We created essentially that certification through this training, where someone who goes through it should be able to negotiate their debt, whether it's medical debt or collection debt, wouldn't really matter. The process could still be used. So we just narrowed that niche from any collection down to medical debt, because the segment market that we're going after is roughly 10 million people who are already insured who can't afford to pay their medical bills.
Is there any customization to this in the sense that if I pay for this tutorial that you ask me some questions like what my income is, what my equity in my home is, if I own a home?
That's why we have a financial worksheet. So you go through this financial worksheet that walks you through that entire process. So if your net income is $2,000 with everything that you make, and then all your expenses equate to $2,500, well, if you're negative $500 every month, you obviously can't pay your medical bills. And so you use that financial worksheet to dictate how you talk to the biller or the collector, depending.
Ironically, I'm one of those 62%.
Okay.
How do you intend to acquire these clients?
Well, through online and a lot of media. So we have a press release we'll be sending out, and we got some connections at the Star Tribune and Fox 9, so hopefully get it on TV or get noticed that way.
Have you considered talking to clinics?
We've actually reached out to,
We're more
Here, Dave.
receptive. Is this still going? Yeah. We're more receptive to insurance companies or brokers rather than clinics or providers, although I think there is a lot of value at the end of the day for clinics or providers to see this product. I mean, at the end of the day, a provider or clinic would really prefer that you were to pay the debt that you owe with credit cards. Let's be honest. So absolutely, partnering with Insure Easy is one around here. Gravy are both online brokers that we're targeting, and other insurance companies as this kind of a value-added product where, hey, you exhausted our policy, but you still have $20,000 left.
Well, as a patient, I would like to be going in to have that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that the cost would be in the six figures for my particular treatment. So if I'm a patient, I'm walking in and being told what I'm going through. One of the things that's never discussed with the patient, at least never with me, is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah. And,
I guess with what the medical billing community is going to see your stuff, and if it takes off, they're going to quote-unquote adjust. You know, you gave it a system, they'll give it a system back and forth, right? How does that work? Because aren't they going to make modifications to how they try and collect based on what your techniques are?
I don't think so. I mean, people have been around for years. I know a guy who, before I purchased my home, 2 years prior to that, helped me fix my credit. He's started his business fixing people's credit and has helping people ever since do that. And they haven't necessarily changed anything to how they collect from you to change his system at all. So to think that they're really going to attack this or try to change that, like so in one of the modules he talks about understanding your billing and how complex it can be for someone. That might stay the same, that might not change. They might continue to confuse it for you, but the process should still work the same. And the benefit about this being an online training module system is that we can change it. So as we have clients that go through the system and then they give us feedback and say, hey, this worked for me, or this insurance company did this for me, or they what have you, then we can modify our training to reflect what all those changes have been. So if there are any changes, it's going to be extremely easy for us to create another video and to throw it online.
I have one comment just to your question is that you have these big companies doing this, and you have 42 million layers of management going down the claim for respective people who then calling and are trained to say, how much can I get from this person? And how should we try to negotiate that? So that part of the system hasn't changed for 40 years now. So
Right.
And just to quick add one piece on that, also what we're doing is we're building an online community. So individuals who use our product have the opportunity to interact with each other and notice trends in the industry too. And so hopefully that will allow us to adapt with the industry, see things that they are unhappy about or new things that we should address, and we can build a module to address that. I didn't know who was up first.
So at what point do my medical bills become negotiable? At what point can I start negotiating how much I'm going to be paying out? But like, I mean, to what degree would I be maybe paying out just 90% instead of 100%? Or does it go does the sliding scale all the way down? I mean, at what point do right, but I mean, at what point do I find value in your product? If I only owe, maybe it's like $500, I mean, to what point do people start turning over and saying, okay, this product is valuable because of X dollars?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd go with the price of the product itself. I mean,
keeping the price of the product out of it, it's dependent on your situation. If you feel $500 is you drowning in medical debt, you might bite. If you think that $10,000 is you drowning in medical debt, you might bite. So it's all personal. So it's all emotional. Money is all emotional. So if your emotions are tied to that and that calls to you, you're going to buy it regardless of price. So if we're charging $10,000 for it, you might buy it because you feel that $100,000 is drowning in it. So you need to negotiate that down. So the product out front is $97. So it's not super expensive. If you bought it one time, you can use it for the life of the product. So the benefit is if you only had $500 in medical debt, you bought it, but then 2 years down the road, you or a family member had $20,000 in medical debt. Now you have them to use that. Or you have any other collections that you want to negotiate. This works for that as well. So, yes.
Have you thought about networking with a lot of financial
planners
and financial institutions? Because I think a lot of people go to them and say, you could actually, I think that could be really good.
There's a lot of potential for who we can speak to and network to. Currently, we've kept it with like cancer societies and some smaller nonprofits. This is pre-launch stuff, so we're doing our beta launch essentially on the 8th, so next Monday, and then 3 weeks of people using it, people testing it, giving us feedback before we actually launch into the new year. So with the first launch, I think we're going to put it out there for $47, just so people have it's not obvious. $97 is still not a lot of money to ask for, but we'll give them additional incentive to purchase it up front to give us the feedback.
Go on Groupon.
My friend actually just started there, and until we've been on the news, we can't. And they have 65 million people on their email list just in America, and they're worldwide.
I think credit unions and labor unions would be good groups for you to affiliate with and approach them and just say, maybe we can give a discounted price to your members, that type of thing. I think those organizations would be really interested in helping their members.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
What's the difference between the $97 and what you would charge to somebody who just walked in with your services?
Oh, for David?
I mean, I struggle with that issue because I tailor my fees to the debt itself. It's going to be more work if it's $100,000 debt versus $5,000, and that's tough because individuals want to structure a fee arrangement differently. I'd prefer if it was just a flat fee and I knew what I'm getting myself into, but really it's dependent on the situation, and then you have to convince them that it's worth what I'm doing. It's, the contingent fee would be me taking a percentage of whatever I settled for. The flat fee would be just $500 for everything I do. I might save you $90,000. I might save you $5,000. I don't know, but here's the flat fee. Or I could do the hourly fee, which I generally like to stay away from just because just my philosophy on the legal profession is, when you get on that hourly rate, there's almost an incentive to really keep it going. And I don't think, just making phone calls and, things that I don't feel an attorney necessarily needs to do unless I'm actually negotiating. It's tough. It's tough to determine a fee as an attorney.
Is the ability
There's a lot of people doing exactly what I do. I learned I learned from another medical billing company that had put their materials out there and then talked to another attorney just to refine my strategy. But the process has been out there for 2 decades. I've tweaked it a little bit here and there, just based on what I've seen, but it's out there. And the key is just getting it to people. So you don't have to, you can cut out this middleman, the scary attorney or medical billing advocate that who knows what they're going to charge you. Here's the price, empower yourself. Our biggest challenge is just making sure that the individuals do the training appropriately so they have the same results as if it was an attorney. I mean, because it's an intimidating process making that call. So we almost need to coach them too.
Do you have a model that, you know, the razor blades versus the razor, that kind of thing, so that long term there's something that people can, once they buy it, they've got it, what is there something that tie them in for an extended period of time?
So, you know, keeping the community together and long-term viability.
Or is there another product or another service that they can, you know, continue to use with you in your pricing model and your overall business model?
Yeah, so also included in the module, I mean, we start at, you know, how to read a medical bill. And a big part of medical billing, there's a lot of errors in the process and simply understanding the bill. And I think long-term viability, an individual is going to have a lot of medical bills over the course of their lifetime. Spotting medical errors and evolving with that industry as well, especially in our online community, I think would create a lot of long-term value for the product, especially on just a $47 or $97 price point to come in.
Let's talk about your business for a second. You're expecting somebody to spend $97 to take on and educate themselves, to do this themselves. They're already kind of in a stressed position. And then you $97 is a one-time upfront idea. And so you have your customer acquisition cost, which is really undefined at this point. And I'm trying to figure out how you're going to make money and what the value proposition is to that customer. I guess my concern is I think you might be better off charging somebody, you know, $15 a month for a, you know, 2-year process, 2-year contract, or a 1-year contract at $20 a month. Because I think there's this, you know, situation of, you know, not, some people might have sticker shock, but regardless of that, you're not going to make enough money in this business model and you're not going to have repetitive earnings going forward. I'm sorry, my iPad was moving. So I would think that a subscription model similar to Legal Shield would be more valuable and make your business more valuable. So once you're on that, you know, the auto pay, you're on it forever.
Yeah. Yeah, so the reason I shy away from any sort of subscription plan like that is because it starts looking like an attorney-client relationship, and there's a lot of red tape around that and a lot of crap that we can get into if we don't have results or we're not doing stuff. Also, debt settlement services, which we are not, is a very heavily regulated industry that we want to stay out of for liability reasons. I do like the subscription plan to stay around, especially to go along the same thread there. If we had a medical spotting medical bill errors, I think that there'd be a great pricing scheme there to work with. Here's the initial, and then to stick around in the community, which builds value for itself. Absolutely.
I can add to that too, actually.
Sure.
So with our model and being able to collect whether it's $47 or $97 for a person to get this training, what happens afterwards is that when people actually complete the process and they call and negotiate their own medical debt, now they have a confidence about them that, one, they got demolished probably through the medical treatments that they had. Now they have this looming bill over their head. So they're at their lowest point possible to come through that and then to feel confident going forward, knowing what their financial situation is at the current moment and negotiating through all that process. That puts a little confidence in you, makes you stand up a little straighter, right? So with that, they'll be also on our mailing list or our email list. The benefit there is later on we can offer them financial services or financial products or other products that either correlate or that take them from their situation that they just got through and bring them into a newer situation too. Well, now that you've conquered that, we can look at your financial situation or help you look at your financial situation and show you how to invest better or how to do this better or do that better. So there's a lot of back-end potential for it. It may not seem like an all upfront thing, and that's what a lot of people focus on is the product that you're currently selling, which is great because I think this is a great product. I think it's a great, awesome, viable solution for people. It's about also what we can do afterwards that counts, not just up front. So, and a model possibly afterwards where we sell them for $15, $20 a month, where we help them figure out investment plans and things like that. That might be a viable option too. So.
We have time for one more question.
Licensing your product to somebody that already has established business, similar to a legal shield model that they have 1 million customers, you're an add-on, extra value proposition for somebody like that. Have you explored that type of connection?
Up to that, now we've just been talking about it. We have not made those interactions yet with any of those companies for the fact that we want to do the beta launch first, get feedback before we figure that out. So at some point we'll get to that though.
But absolutely with the brokers. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we do end on, I know you've got a lot of feedback here, but is there anything else this community can do for you? What are you looking for?
And I think
Buy it.
Mark, yeah, I think Mark touched on it earlier, was getting the word out to individuals who need the product. So right now, our biggest thing would be marketing, publicity. And we're in kind of a goofy situation with a beta, a minimum viable product, and a soft launch. So there's a difference between the kind of publicity we want now, and I'm sure other entrepreneurs have struggled with this too, is we want users in, but we don't want to flood the site too much, sadly. And then for the hard launch, we want a different type of press. So that's where we're at right now, and we're looking for the best way to navigate that over the next month. Thank you.
Well, that's 1 million cups. Typically, we have 2 startups every Wednesday. This week, we just have 1. So the 2 Davids, David squared, David times 2. Lots of ways you can go with it. But my request from you as a community is that we need more startups to present. So if you are a startup or if you're regularly interacting with startups, please refer them to us. We would love to have them on all of our Wednesdays coming up. In fact, we don't have anybody for next week or any of the Wednesdays before the holidays. So please have people contact us, email us, or contact me, and I can reach out to people also. Feel free to stay around, talk with the Davids. I'm sure there's lots of other questions out there, so network, talk, ask questions, drink coffee, and then the library opens up at 10. All of our resources are here and available to you. Feel free to stick around and work. Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you next week.